Hi everyone, welcome to today's wellness webinar. My name is Jeff Crabb. I'm the Director of Marketing here at ZYTO. We're glad that you could join us. This is our last wellness webinar of 2019. We've had an awesome year, and these wellness webinars have just been an incredible time for not only us, but hopefully for everyone that's attended. We've had thousands of people that have come and viewed these webinars with us, and we look forward to 2019 making these available. We have a lot of great and awesome topics and themes, presenters ready for 2019. On the screen, you'll see we have two infographics that we made mention of last time in our webinar. The first has to deal with ZYTO's relationship with the FDA. It's important for us to clearly communicate what it is that ZYTO does to remain completely compliant to FDA standards and regulations. And so that infographic is available not only just for this presentation, but you'll see a link there underneath it where you can download that and share that with any clients that may have questions regarding the use of the hand cradle and ZYTO technology. So you'll see that there on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see 8 benefits of biocommunication, which is something unique. These are definitely available for download. They're easy to share with clients that come in to visit you. Any of the different resources that you need that are available on ZYTO.com are free, accessible. We want to make those as easy for you to utilize as possible. So links are down there right below the images. I'd encourage you to look into those a little bit more. So without delay, I wanted to introduce today's presenter. Her name is Dr. Nikki Reed Wilson. She is a board-certified naturopathic doctor. She's also a certified hypnotherapist, a certified lifeline practitioner, as well as the creator of Holistic Redesign. And it's been my pleasure to work alongside her as we've begun creating this presentation for today. She's been such a pleasure to work with and has a lot of information to share in a condensed amount of time. Nikki, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and you're joining us from Louisiana, which is a little bit warmer than here in Utah right now.
That's right. It is warmer here down south in Cajun land. Lafayette, Louisiana is where I'm at presently, born and raised. I want to thank you guys for this opportunity as well for me to share something I'm really passionate about. Today, we heal when we feel. And I want to share not only what I've been doing in my own practice. I'm the creator of Holistic Redesign, which is a blend of 15 different healing modalities, which I'm going to share some of my favorite tools with you guys. These are things you can use in your own life and your own practice. And obviously, I'm going to be giving you some information that may trigger you. And it's not my intention to trigger you in a bad way. But I like to say it this way when I work with my clients or even with myself. None of us consciously choose to be triggered, but it's always an opportunity when we are triggered to stay focused on what our intention is. And I'm sharing with you guys, even I might get triggered today. Sometimes we have technical glitches, or sometimes we get triggered with words that we see, things that we hear, anything like that. And I want you guys to know that it's my intention to be present with you, to give you as much information that I can, and feel really amazing doing that. So as I move forward, you're going to see that we heal when we feel. I want to also be really vulnerable and share something with you guys. I started my undergrad in theater, and I was always really curious about human relationships and how our emotions really were connected to our health. And so in undergrad, I was an actor, and I traveled and I used voice. So it's like natural for me to be into voice analysis. It's easy for me to study emotions, and I'm super passionate about creating an environment in my practice where I might share the stage, so to speak, with my clients. As soon as they come in, I notice obviously we're doing Chinese medicine, and I'm charting, and I'm noticing those signs on their face, their hair, skin, nails, their tongue, all of that stuff, just like you guys do. But I might even mirror their body language so that it begins to create rapport with them. Now, since you guys are at home and I can't see you, but we're all sharing this platform of virtual technology together, I would encourage you to be present, Put your cell phones away. If you were here in my office, you'd see my notes are everywhere, and then I tell myself, okay, just be present, take a deep breath, and be in the here and now, because this is how we really create change. You're going to notice over the things that I share with you in the next 30, 45 minutes that you will start to feel emotions as well. Just because I'm sharing something with you, or you might see something on the screen, I might challenge you or ask you a question, and Jeff will too. Just stay and pay attention to your body. Notice how your body is speaking to you, and symptoms and feedback. So I shared with you my background a little bit. Undergrad was theater, but I was always into natural health. I really am curious about how our emotions, our thoughts, our programming affect our health. And so that's what we're going to be getting into today. As a naturopath, I definitely am embracing the yin and the yang. We live in the land of duality, you guys. The top half of our body is in a yang state. The lower half of our body is like a carrot going into the earth's surface in a yin state. And when we have thoughts, or when we're dealing with our belief systems and our programs, we need to move that energy down into our body. And a lot of times everything gets transmuted through our heart. So if y'all are familiar with heart math, if you're familiar with the term coherence, you know, it's a ZYTO term. What we want to do is get that head and heart connected and energy flowing through all of our 12 acupuncture meridians and things like that. So I'm going to be giving you a few nuggets, some of the things that I use in my practice. And if you are using the software, hopefully you can take away a few things and use emotions to help yourself and your client up level. Now, what I mean by that word is I'm going to show you a tool that I use and give you a visual aid of how we actually go from slower emotions that live maybe in the lower chakras, the lower areas of our body, and we use those energies to move them up, kind of like the Kundalini stuff or breath work, taking that cerebral spinal fluid and shooting it up the spine around that pineal gland so that we can have our natural endorphins, our natural hormones, and everything communicating, wiring, firing together. We're going to be talking about more of also how I use the EVOX and voice analysis. Okay, so here's a few testimonials of some clients that have been working with me. Christine said that she admitted when she came to me that she had some stubborn habits, whether it was, you know, emotional eating, habits of not going to the gym, habits like emotional addiction she had in her relationship with her man. She found herself always getting triggered and going straight to a place of anger, and it wasn't her conscious choice. So she came in for a holistic redesign session. We did voice analysis with EVOX. We did our ZYTO Elite scans to find out what nutrients could support her body so that we could also do some deep emotional work and change some programs. And Christine became more aware of her emotions, and she no longer felt like a victim in her situation. And I will tell you, it's uncomfortable sometimes up-leveling. It's not always comfortable going from one place that you've always been, like your go-to emotional place. Let's say frustration is your emotional addiction. You know what that feels like. Your kids know what that feels like. Oh, there goes mom. She's frustrated. Everybody around you is aware of our emotional addictions, but sometimes we don't know how to get out of them. So hopefully I can share a little bit with you. Another testimonial from Lisa, who's been coming to me for years. She became more aware of her thoughts and her beliefs that would limit her. And she became aware of what emotions that she could move through. Instead of being intimidated by moving through something like guilt, blame, and shame, she embraced it. And I will help you guys do that as well. Okay, so some of the tools I've already mentioned that I use in my practice are the ZYTO tools, voice analysis, as well as the Elite. I started about a decade ago with the Compass license, and then I worked my way up. I remember putting money away, living within my means, and as I made more money through my consults, I can remember my first consult was like $25 an hour. Gosh, and I worked out of my home. I was at home, I was married, and wanted to make some supplemental income, and I just was a truth seeker, and I wanted to learn. So I got on with the Compass with Nature Sunshine products because I'd been with NSP for 20 plus years, and then I just grew from there. And now I own almost all the ZYTO licenses. I have 2 Elites, I have some Compasses, I have the EVOX, and I have a select. So I'm hopefully going to give you guys some information that you can use no matter what level you're at. Please don't be intimidated. Use the software on yourself. That's how I really learned the most. I had this scientist mind, and I just kept playing with it for myself, my family and friends. And then as I became a naturopath, I also became a certified hypnotherapist. And I want to share something with you right now. This ZYTO technology allows you to communicate directly with the subconscious mind. So if you're not familiar with muscle testing, we're basically muscle testing yourself and your clients. And it's fascinating that we can ask the body without pressing on a muscle, maybe thousands, if not 20,000 things in one session. And that's really comfortable, more comfortable for your client, and definitely more comfortable for me, because I'm looking for all these pieces of their puzzle pieces to put it together and help my client feel whole before they end a session. Okay, one of the things that we can use with the ZYTO Elite is you can go into your work table and directly ask, what emotions stress my client? You can go into that work table and directly ask that. You can also utilize the built-in biosurveys that they have and notice some of the emotions coming up as balancers. And by the end of today's webinar, you're going to know how to really explain that to your client and use it for the highest good. Another thing that I like to do in the Elite work table is ask about limiting beliefs. So most of us know that a belief, let's just say it this way. If I believe in Santa Claus, I'm going to have an emotional charge. You know, maybe 0 to 8, believing in Santa Claus feels really lovely, feels magical. But I'm going to say it this way. Once a greater truth presents itself and you are forced to believe something different, you know, mom and dad, we have to have the courage to let go of this one belief of Santa Claus and grab the other belief that is the higher truth. It may not feel comfortable at first, right? Because I might be 8 years old and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I really don't like that mom and dad are Santa Claus because I know how much money mom has. She's stressed about this. It doesn't feel good any longer to believe a higher truth. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to your emotional charge, your state of being, when you think about the beliefs that you carry. And your clients will be triggered as well. You know, if you see that they are limited with the belief of, I'm going to say, a limiting belief of, let's see, I forgive the past. Maybe they believe that they have forgiven the past. And it wakes up this sort of resistance within them when you challenge them with this belief, you know? And so you say, well, how does that make you feel? How does it make you feel when you think the thought of believing in a higher truth? And I might ask my client, how does it make you feel to believe that mom and dad are Santa Claus? And you work through those things, and I'm going to share more about that in the upcoming slides. Neuro-linguistic programming, if you guys are not familiar with that, basically neuro, brain, linguistic words, programming, we are accessing all of our programs when we're talking to the subconscious mind, okay? We're going to get into that. David Hawkins' Power versus Force, I like to use his work just as a visual aid. And nonviolent communication, if you're not familiar with that, there's plenty of information out there on the internet, books, research that you guys can dive deeper into on your own time. So here we go. Who chooses emotional stress and disease? The reason, right? Who wakes up and says, I really want this psoriasis, I really want these migraines, I really want endometriosis with breakfast this morning? Does anybody consciously choose their symptoms? We're going to do a poll right now. You're going to notice on your screens.
Yeah, it should say, do you consciously choose the symptoms you experience in your body and your relationships? It's just a yes or no question.
But notice how we throw in the word relationships. Because our bodies are made in the, I'm going to say like in the image of a higher power, not to be offensive, but as a naturopath, it's my belief, and I don't want to project that belief on anybody else, but we give our power away all the time to cancer. thinking that, cancer has more power to kill us than believing in the trillions of cells that we have that are made in a higher power's image to self-regenerate, be complete, and made whole, So what we believe carries an emotional charge, you guys. And if you consciously choose your symptoms, we'll have a different conversation.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, we just got the results back here. It's kind of it's a landslide. We have 85% of the people responded no to that question.
Right. Nobody chooses. Nobody wakes up and says, I really choose a heart attack today. Okay. And I'm going to share something really vulnerable with you guys. 6 years ago, my husband passed away of a heart attack at 34 years old. And I had the honor of having these ZYTO technologies with me in our, nearly 7 years of marriage. And I was even able to scan him. I didn't consciously know that my husband was going to die that night. I didn't consciously know what was going down. But looking at our ZYTO scans, in hindsight, looking back and researching the scientist brain that I have, I started noticing patterns. And since Andy's passing, I started noticing other things, even in flower essences. If you guys use flower therapy, Bach flowers, Australian flower essences, I started noticing even Andy's body, his conscious mind and his subconscious mind and his ZYTO scans, he was scanning even on the day that he was passing for Australian flower essence called autumn leaves. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but I know now it's like clockwork. Around cellular memory time, around the anniversary time of his death, me, my children, Andy's family, as well as clients that have cellular memory or anniversaries of death, they all scan for this homeopathic remedy. It's fascinating to me that our nervous systems carry all these memories. Even though we don't consciously know what's going down, the ZYTO picks up on it. It's fascinating. Okay, so we're going to move on. We don't consciously choose the stress in our relationship, right? Andy, my late husband, did not consciously choose heart disease. But here in a second, I'm going to ask you guys if you carry a belief that you have disease from your family. That might be a belief that you carry, that you're going to get breast cancer because mom had breast cancer, or that you have psoriasis because the family had psoriasis, or I'm prone for divorce because I'm a product of divorce. Now, there's a little bit of truth in that, and we need to pay attention to our programming, but I'm going to challenge you to become more aware of your belief systems. Okay, here we go. This graph right here lets us know not only the way in which our central nervous system, our brain, is developed through alpha, beta, theta, delta brain waves. It also lets you know that the conscious mind is the thinking mind. We go in and out of beta and alpha brain waves throughout the day. Okay, so if you are a student and the teacher says, by the way, class, we're going to do a pop quiz in 10 minutes. You're going to go into high beta. You're going to start to pay attention and become super aware of something in your environment. But when you are restoring the body, when we are resting, sleeping at night, and restoring at a cellular level, we're going into delta brain waves. Now notice programs and habits are in the subconscious part of the brain. And in order for us to access the subconscious brain for ourselves and our clients to create sustainable change, we've got to, I'm going to say it this way, we've got to overwhelm them a little bit, okay? When somebody comes into my office, I've got a movie playing in the lobby about, maybe it's the emotion code movie, where I start to plant seeds in their subconscious brain that they start to hear it once, twice, 3 times before they even come into my office. And the brain learns in 2 ways. The brain learns to deprogram itself and reprogram itself through repetition, just like us learning the ABCs, repetition, repetition, and through new associations, okay? So if you got bit by a dog at the age of 5 in these hyper-suggestible years, you most likely in your adult age have some aversion to dogs. You might not be a pet owner. But if you have a positive association, you grew up in a house loving pets, you saw mom and dad treat animals like people, then you probably are a pet lover and maybe have a pet yourself. want to reprogram, maybe you grew up in a house where mom was a smoker. She smoked with the windows up in the car, and she smoked till the day she died. That's my program. If I am struggling with a habit, like if I was a smoker and I had trouble quitting smoking, I could, yes, do hypnotherapy, or I could work on making new associations and programming myself. And so hopefully I'll give you guys a little bit of tools that you can use. And you will hear me repeat some things over and over again. I apologize, but it's to get to your subconscious in a short amount of time. Overwhelming the body is how we get to that subconscious brain. We are hypersuggestible first thing in the morning and right before bed. That's good to know. Okay, in order to reach alpha and theta, here in my practice, I like to use hemistem light frames. Maybe you guys got some with your EVOX. I know I got my EVOX a long time ago, so I have an older version of hemistem lights, and I love them. Most of my clients love them too, because we can get into that alpha and theta brainwave state where things slow down and you can actually use your imagination. Now, the brain doesn't know the difference between past experiences, we'll call them memories, present reality, and our future imagination. And we're going to use that to our benefit, you guys. And if you're a practitioner, I would encourage you to start using symbols, metaphors, because that's how our subconscious connects to us. When we dream at night, we dream in images, not words. So this graph, you're going to notice on the left here, it says past known experiences. So we are hypersuggestible. Our brains are like wet cement from the ages of 0 and beyond, but let's just say 0 to 18 for now. And the future, on the right side, you're going to notice the future is always unknown. Have any of you guys traveled to the future? Do we have any time travelers here?
I wish. I hope we do.
I know. Imagine traveling to your future and then coming back.
Awesome.
You could do that in meditation, right? But usually using your imagination is how we imagine our future, right? And none of us have been to the future, so you're going to hear me say the unknown experiences. If you want to get out of victimhood and you don't want those past experiences repeating, then you need to get vulnerable. You got to admit that we don't know what the future holds. And zone 6 in the EVOX is conditional love versus unconditional love. It's the #1 zone that most of my clients are reactive in. It's always red and yellow for everybody because we are programmed to not be vulnerable. You know, we don't want past experiences repeating, and so we stay guarded over our heart. At the top here, top left, our conscious mind is the choosing mind, and we've already established that none of us choose the symptoms of our health or the stress in our relationships. Nobody chooses that, but yet it's happening. It's all happening for subconscious reasons, you guys, because our brains are communicating with our highest self. Our highest self is our future best self. It's I like to call it our Christ-like self, or you can call it your future best self. Our hearts are guiding us to our future, and most of us stay up in our heads and we aren't dropping into our hearts to really follow that spiritual guidance, okay, our loving best selves. Now, I'm going to poll you guys again. This is questioning your beliefs, because remember, our beliefs have an emotional charge.
It says, do you carry a belief that you are sick due to your family history of illness? Yes or no?
Do you guys believe that you are going to repeat a past program from your ancestors? Or do you carry a belief that you're going to repeat the same symptoms that your medical doctor says you can't ever heal from? You know, where we got to take a drug for every bug and a pill for every ill. Do you guys, do you carry that belief?
Okay, so we just heard back from everyone, and it's almost exactly where it was at before. So 84% said no. Do you carry a belief?
So what's really lovely is that we have an awake audience. You guys are really conscious and aware that our beliefs are powerful. The words that we say to ourselves, the words that we say to others. If you guys are not familiar with Dr. Emoto's work on water and the frequency that our words put out, check that out. Go to YouTube and check out Dr. Emoto's work on water. Our bodies are made up of mostly water, and we carry that frequency, we carry that charge. So at the top, you're going to notice on the top right, in order to create the future, and we don't want the past repeating itself, we need to set an intention, especially to get out of victimhood. We're not a victim to our circumstances. I wasn't a victim just because a higher power says it's time for my husband to go at age 34 and leave me with 2 kids. He was my business partner as well. Leave me to run my practice without him. Talk about the most devastating event today in my life, and I'm going to be 40 here in a few days. That was the most heartbreaking event that I had. And I discovered through losing him that I didn't consciously choose it, these steps that I learned from other healers, and that it actually worked. And my quality of life, and my children's quality of life, and my practice began to thrive from putting these things into practice, you guys. I set an intention after Andy died that I was not going to fall victim, but I was going to up level out of grief and climb the ladder to become my best self and share this work with you today. So I used to tell myself, I'm confident and capable, feeling amazing. Or I used to tell myself if I got triggered with things that I'm safe, feeling secure. And so I'm going to ask you guys to take a moment and check in with yourself. What, if you don't want to feel what you're currently feeling, ask yourself, ask your heart, what do you really want to feel? Imagine yourself in your future. Take a moment, drop into your heart. And how do you want to feel instead of your current stress? Just take a moment for yourself. Remember, the only way to create change is in the generous present moment. And we have to understand that these triggers that we are having are helping us to evolve to our highest best self. Any negative known experience that we've had in our past, for me, sharing that day that Andy died, the trauma of losing someone you love, that was in my attractor field. I mean, we're all going to die one day, but I also kept attracting more trauma. You know, if you're a practitioner, pay attention to the clients that are coming to you. In the year that Andy died, I really attracted a lot of people, other widows, widowers, and people in the state of grief. And that was in my attractor field. I vibrated in that state of being. So it was through speaking with them, noticing their scans, me helping them, that I also had some accountability to help myself. And I want to share with you that emotions are simply energy in motion. They're neither good or bad. We all have them. And whether you have a low EQ, emotional quotient, or a high EQ, where you can feel and understand all emotions, they're all frequency, and it carries information. Back in my theater days, I really loved performing on stage and depicting a certain emotion. You know, if it was drama or satire, I really liked connecting with the audience. And it wasn't through the words we were saying. It was through the emotions that the actors are giving off that the audience would really draw near and have an emotional response as well. So based on our personal thoughts and feelings, we're always sending and receiving information. And we know that the quantum field, which is, you know, access to all information, all things are possible. And if you want to feel differently, you got to start consciously choosing it. Okay, the speed at which the information travels can be altered by changing our emotional state of being. And the observer effect, this is a true thing, science proves that once you start to observe something, you're no longer a victim. You become, I'm going to say, like a participant. You now get to participate and start to control and manipulate, in the highest good, how you want to feel. So here's a graph of showing you some frequencies, just some wavelengths, right? The lower ones, guilt, blame, and shame, suffering, victimization, those are really slow moving. And if you're familiar with Louise L. Hay's work, you're going to notice that if you thumb through her book, this is her book, You Can Heal Your Life. Her life's work was studying people's mental state, their emotional state, and how it affected to symptoms in the body, how it was connected. And all guilt is connected to pain. You know, if a client comes in and they're in pain in their body, I know they're feeling guilty about something. There's some sort of thought or belief that they're carrying. And you guys, the ZYTO picks up on this. You don't have to be a know-it-all when you're working with your clients. You just let their bodies tell you what's going on, and you just simply interpret the information, right? ZYTO is a decision support tool, and I'm so grateful to have it. If you
have you found that the lower frequencies are more difficult for people to overcome, or what's been your experience there?
Well, that's that's a really loaded question, but simply put, yes. Jeff, if someone has chronic inflammation, then they have a chronic repeating pattern and a belief connected to guilt, blame, and shame. And we're going to see that on the EVOX. When I notice zones 4 through 6 being red and yellow, I know too that they've got some regret, some guilt, pain, and shame. You're going to notice in the EVOX zones 1 through 3, if you're an EVOX user, that's when somebody's they're making conscious choices to be sad and be in a place of low vibration rather than making the conscious choice every day to find something to be grateful for. You know, the EVOX zones 7 through 9, when those are red and yellow, I know someone's in a state of fear and anxiety, and that they consciously choose to keep picking up the fear card. It's almost like they get like this dopamine fix from being addicted to these emotions. We don't pay attention to the emotions that y'all are always going to when you're triggered. That's going to tell you where your state of being is from a past part of you that was unprocessed. So my go-to used to be frustration. I'm not proud of it. You know, I'm really not proud to share that. But when things didn't go my way, or if I was triggered, boy, I would get frustrated. And my kids would see me behave a certain way. I'd bite my bottom lip. You know, I'm like, So even my toddler, he was like, Mom, why are you biting your lip? Are you frustrated? You know, and we would have open dialogue in my household to see each other, see us in that emotional vibration, and we would hold space for each other to up level. So right above anger is, you're going to see on this, it's control. And so now my daughters, 12 and 10, they'll be like, Mom, you need control? Mom, you got control. It's okay. It's not my intention to trigger you. We use words like that in my household. You know, if they get sassy, if I've got a 12-year-old starting to get sassy, I'll just say, hold on, it's probably not her intention to be disrespectful. What can I say to her to create sacred space for her to feel her feelings and up level? So I might say, Evangeline, is it your intention to be sassy right now? And she'll take a moment and she'll say, no, Mom, that's not my intention. I'm just, I was just thinking about this. It's not my intention to be sassy. And that alone right there, open dialogue, having a nonviolent communication with one another, allows her to feel her feelings, allows me to feel mine, and I can get that cortisol level down right away just by simply asking the question.
That is awesome. I love that.
I know, right? We have 2 states of mind and body. On the left side of the screen, you're going to see survival. This is when our body is truly in a state of like fight or flight. Cortisol levels are up. We're having breakdown in the body at a cellular level. And in our relationships, a lot of times people who are in a state of being, let's just say a repetitive thought, because science shows that 70% of our thoughts that we have in a day are repetitive thoughts that we've had from previous days that create the same choices, the same behaviors, the same experiences, the same emotions, and the same feelings over and over again. Science shows that. So if you have thoughts around guilt, blame, shame, despair, grief, fear, and anxiety, if you have addictions, lust, anger, frustration, pride, if you're on that side of the fence, then there's breakdown happening in the body, okay? There's breakdown happening in your relationships, hands down. When somebody comes in and they're scanning on their ZYTO scan that it's balancing for them to feel fear, I know that they're vibrating below fear. And so we talk about that. I'll say, your anxiety is serving you. So I know that you want to go to your medical doctor and get on all these benzodiazepines and maybe not feel your feelings, but we're locking it in, you guys. It's like we're putting a ceiling over their potential, and we're unable to really break through that ceiling with ease. You can get there, and I'm not encouraging people to wean off their drugs, but that's part of why people come to me, is so that they can begin to feel all their feelings, not be in a state of fight or flight just because you're having an emotion, and we can heal the past. So creation, if you want to be the creator of your life, where you're setting an intention and you're no longer a victim, that's when the body is starting to repair itself. That's a place of empowerment. When you start having conscious thought and an emotional state of being of, being more accepting, being more understanding. I was that mom who's like, okay, I understand that she's not being sassy. I understand she's got stress. She's got stuff going on in her own world. I can draw near to my kids, or I can push them away. And it happens with us at a cellular level as well. I can increase the vibration of my body and my state of being and have more chi, more energy for healing, or I can down level, break myself down with the words and thoughts and the beliefs that I carry and the beliefs that I project onto others. When you see this right here, it's we live in the land of duality. And so there's a method that I use here in my office. If someone tells me they're feeling, I'll say, how are you feeling today? What's an emotion you got? And they're saying, oh, I feel really anxious. And I'll say, well, what's the equal and opposite for you? What's the opposite of anxiety? Because what we want to do is start like the infinity symbol. We want to start moving chi. We want to start moving energy in the body. So I'll say, sometimes I feel anxious and sometimes I don't, and I might even have them do a cross crawl. You guys know when we are doing that cross crawl infinity pattern that we're getting our left and right brain hemispheres to work. So I do it as a visual aid here in my office with my hands. I'll say sometimes I don't trust my future and sometimes I trust that everything all is well. And so you want to start encouraging your clients to mentally get in the game of duality, that even though they are vibrating or they're in a place of fear, the opposite of that might be peace for them. The opposite of fear for them might be, Jeff, what's the opposite of fear for you?
Security, I guess.
Yeah. And so, and it's going to mean something different for everybody. So just meet them where they are. Ask them, right here at the top, I'm just going to give you another visual aid. Repetition is how the body learns. So I'm giving you a repeated slide. I personally did not choose for my loved ones to die. It wasn't my conscious choice, but my subconscious said, this is going to help you become a better version of yourself if you allow it to, Nikki. And so in order to create the future that I really wanted, I had to shift out of anxiety and trauma and drama into a place of safety, security, and peace. And the only way I could do that was to start paying attention to all of my senses, the environment around me. So when trauma is happening for all of us, I'm going to say it for me in my practice, I'll say when we're unseen, unfelt, and unheard. So if you grow up in an environment where no one is really seeing you the way you want to be seen, let's call it you're misperceived. If you grow up in an environment where people aren't feeling you the way you want to be felt, so my daughter, if she felt and me projecting a belief onto her that she was a sassy kid, when that's not the truth of her is she's loving. She's just vibrating through emotions. If I would have projected my belief onto her, she would have been misperceived by me. She would have been bullied by my belief. And then the words that we hear, so see, feel, hears, that's how our brain is really learning through kinesthetics, right? Auditory, taste, touch, smell. I would have been solidifying, repeating experiences over and over again for my daughter to then expect certain things from me in my relationship, where she may not have felt safe to be her authentic self with me in the future. She'd say, well, mom just believes that I'm a sassy kid, so what's the use? Why talk to mom? Why share my innermost vulnerable feelings with her if she's just going to project, misperceive me? So EVOX allows you to challenge your clients about their perceptions of themselves and their perceptions of people around them. Using the EVOX allows us to actually say what we're thinking and feeling And then we get on that graph, on that pie chart, we can see if it's red and yellow, if your client is in a reactive state, okay? They may feel cool as a cucumber, but if there's red and yellow, you know that there is some unprocessed stress in their nervous systems, okay? And we want to change from the inside out, and we want to empower our clients to do that. Embracing the unknown means you got to embrace being vulnerable. Me knowing that my heart is built to break and also built to love immensely puts you in a really vulnerable spot. For me to make a conscious choice to fall in love again after Andy died was extremely vulnerable for me. And for you guys as well. Your hearts have been broken. You've had people tell you things you didn't want to hear. And to go back out there and do it again, whether you're an athlete or a musician, we understand cellular memory when you're like, hitting a ball back and forth. Well, we have cellular memory in building relationships too. And if I would have made a conscious choice not to get back out there due to me just vibrating in a state of tragedy and victimhood, I don't know that that would have been the best thing for me, and for my practice. When you look at the 12 zones on the EVOX, you're going to notice each one of these zones match up with notes on a musical scale. So if you're a musician, you're going to know do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. For me, in my practice, I have a pitch pipe, and I demonstrate that the EVOX can be something that my client can believe in, because before I even record their voice, I will blow a music note, let's say the music note of A. I will blow and demonstrate with the room microphone that I have for it to show up on the EVOX. And my client can trust that the frequency of A is 440 hertz, and that when their voice is speaking with that vibration, it's going to be depicted on this voice analysis, and there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. You can't mess it up. You can't manipulate the data. It really is a great, powerful tool. Each one of these zones has a yin and yang to it, and embracing duality. So after demonstrating, I'll have them talk about their symptoms and the state of being, their stress in their relationships, and I'll share with them where energy is getting stagnant in the body, and let them know that they're either too yin or too yang, and I really act it out, give them a visual aid. So if they're blocked in zone 1, if 1 is red or yellow and they're reactive there, that tells me they're either thinking thoughts or carrying beliefs that having a perception that they're like Eeyore. Thanks for noticing me. I'm in victimhood. Nobody's acknowledging me. That would be an extreme, unacknowledged state of being. The opposite is self-validation. So an extreme other side of the fence, yang, is like egotistical. Pay attention to me. I'm the bee's knees. I did everything. Go ahead and thank me now. Thank me later. So you want to encourage your client to have a balance of both. A little bit of humility where it's okay that someone doesn't acknowledge my talents and skills, and a little bit of courage to speak out and say, hey, I just need a little acknowledgement for a job well done, and then we can get on with our project. So that imbalance, a little bit of yin, a little bit of yang, will have energy flowing in the body. So if you have a client that's blocked in a red zone in any of these, do your best to table it and say, what's the opposite of sadness for you if they're blocked in zone 3? They're going to tell you. Then you have them talk about a time in their past where they weren't sad. And you start to have the brain wire and fire together, amping up positive associations and using that energy to balance out the yin and yang instead of just staying in a perception of victimhood. Okay. Practical exercises to use in sessions. I shared with you zone 6 is the number one zone, conditional love versus unconditional love. Y'all, we have been programmed to be uncomfortable with the emotions around us. We've been programmed to not associate with people who maybe are making poor choices, or who don't resonate with our political beliefs, or who don't believe the same things as us. And we get uncomfortable in our skin. We get judgmental. We push people away rather than draw them near. And zone 6, when it's truly balanced, is someone who can tolerate all emotions. And we're going to get here. I want you to identify your emotional addictions, you guys. After today's webinar, pay attention when you get triggered. What's your go-to emotion? Jeff, can I put you on the spot?
Absolutely. I'm nervous now.
When things don't go your way, you know, like you said, it was a hard time getting into the office this morning.
Yeah.
What was the emotion? What was your emotional state of being that you were in this morning?
Probably a mixture of nervousness and frustration.
I know, right? I know frustration. I know that one too well. So in order to get through anxiety and frustration, you want to get to a place of pride where you're really proud of yourself. So Jeff, if you were blocked right now in zone 8 of the EVOX, if that was red and yellow, fear and overwhelm versus accountability, I would ask, did you do your best getting to the office today?
I did. Traffic got in my way.
Oh, so you want to blame traffic?
I want to blame traffic. I want to push it off to everyone. No, yeah.
No, and it's fun to banter with your clients like this. You know, emotions are neither good or bad. They just are. It's our perception of them that makes them feel really rotten. So do you perceive being proud of yourself to be a positive thing, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can you share with me that you're pretty proud of in the present moment? What are you proud of?
Well, I'm proud that I'm here and I'm part of this great webinar. That's a pretty big success for me right now.
And so being in a vibration, a state of being of pride is a higher frequency where things are going to shift in your body faster than being in a state of fear, anxiety, frustration. Okay. So I'm going to give you a visual aid here. Louise L. Hay, in her book of You Can Heal Your Life, if you went to addictions, you can start asking yourself, how would it feel if I stopped running from my highest self and embraced being whatever that vibration is? So Jeff, how does it feel when you think the thought that it's, you know, how does it feel if you could embrace being frustrated?
I guess empowering, I'm not, instead of pushing it away, being accepting that that's probably just how I am. There's a component of that.
So think about at home, if you had somebody just knocking on your door, let's call it Mr. Frustration is knocking on your door. Would you let frustration in for a short amount of time? Now, frustration's not moving in with you and your family. It's just coming for a brief moment and then frustration will leave. How do you feel about that when I give you that visual aid?
Yeah, better about it.
Yeah, knowing that emotions are fleeting. They're just coming and going.
Mm-hmm. It's not taking up residence.
Yeah, no. But if you have symptoms of disease in your body, you guys, and if you have breakdown in your relationships, then we are allowing those frequencies of emotions to take up residence in your home, in your sacred space, in your sanctuary. And so ZYTO can help you pinpoint what emotions are kind of lingering, which ones you've suppressed, and which ones you're ready to let go of. So if you are struggling with being overweight, you can start asking yourselves questions like, how would it feel if I didn't really need protection? If I could just, be okay knowing that, my heart is going to break. Bad things are going to happen in life. And start telling myself the truth of what is. Because all too often we lie to our kids. Boy, do we lie to them. We project beliefs that nothing bad's going to happen. But if I carried a belief that like, Nikki, you might grow old with your husband, you might not. If someone would have given me that belief in my past programmable years, I probably would have handled the trauma a little bit more with grace and ease. So let's be mindful of the beliefs and the emotions that we are projecting on the people around us, you guys. The truth of everything is that all emotions under the sun exist, and our bodies are built to feel them. And start looking for patterns. Start asking yourself questions. Become aware of the awareness. Once you start becoming aware of your emotions, you're no longer a victim to them. Okay? Now I'm going to teach you about nonviolent communication, and we're going to go over power versus force here in a second. Nonviolent communication is a series of 4 simple steps, you guys. If you make an observation with your head, how do you see yourself? Like Jeff, how did you see yourself this morning?
Oh man, chaotic and crazy.
Right. Now, what's beautiful about science is that we know there's always chaos and then there's order. There's chaos and then there's order. And that's happening in our outer world and our inner world, right? So how did that make you feel when you saw chaos around you?
Obviously nervous about being able to accomplish what my intended purpose of the morning was.
You noticed some of the beliefs that you had surfacing, like, did you carry limiting beliefs or limitless beliefs? Did you have
Yeah.
yourself, did you have yourself being held back in some way? Or did you have limitless beliefs like all is well, everything's possible?
I felt very constrained.
And then the body goes into a state of fight or flight. And our brain waves are in this high beta state, and we're in like this emergency mode. The body goes into breakdown. So in order for us to heal at a cellular level, just from communication to ourselves and others, what do you think needs to happen, Jeff? When you were going through that, what really needed to happen?
I've loved what you've mentioned so far, where you kind of allow it a moment in time for that emotion to present itself, but then don't allow it to take up residence. Don't welcome it in and give it a place in your heart, but then move on and allow yourself to see the bigger picture of what's really important.
Exactly. So when I liken this to the body, I see myself eating a strawberry. I feel like the strawberry is delicious, and I need my digestive enzymes from my saliva. I need my body to take the nutrients and then let go of what no longer serves me at a cellular level. And lastly, what do I want? I want to maybe eat strawberries again one day. I want to feel good. So you can take this nonviolent communication even and apply it to your physical, like physical things in the body, how the body's breaking down things. If your client is lacking digestive enzymes or if there's pain and inflammation, they're typically stuck on what needs to happen. They're not digesting their life emotionally and spiritually. And lastly, of nonviolent communication is what we want to attract. This is where there's power in setting an I am intention, you guys. Whatever you want to create in your future, use your imagination. That's what you want to bring into your attractor field. So, Jeff, what do you want?
I want to be successful. I want to feel accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So we would write your I am intention. I am successful. And when you think about being successful, you wake up tomorrow and the next day after that, and you're in a state of being of success, how does that cause you to feel? What do you start to feel?
I think that the component of individual pride and feeling of I don't know, just overall success and happiness that can.
Awesome.
Knowing that I did something great.
And that little tool, you guys, is super powerful for shifting things in people's EVOCs where they have stagnant red and yellow zones. And so I used to have all my clients for the first few years write nonviolent communication before they actually came into my office. So in the lobby, they would have those 4 statements and they would write it down so they became aware, going from their head down to their heart, digesting things, what do they really need, and then attracting what do they really want. So Bruce Lipton and the study of epigenetics talks about our genes being turned on and off by our external environment. That means most of the clients coming to you, as well as yourself, is in a state of being just because of your environment. We've already heard Jeff say that he was frustrated because of the traffic around him, right? So instead of being in a vibration of guilt, blame, and shame, you're going to notice on the bottom rung of this chart, those are slow moving. Things are going to be slow to shift and heal in the body if you are vibrating in that state of being. If you want change to happen, I'm going to encourage you to be calibrating or vibrating at a place of 200 and above. Now, this is David Hawkins' work. I've used it for, 15 years. And what I want you to imagine is like a ladder that when your client comes in and on their ZYTO scans, we see that it's balancing for them to feel anger at 150. That's just the calibration of how Hawkins calibrated things. But anger is a higher vibration than addictions. So if someone is raising consciousness of addictions, whether it's emotional addictions or addictions to alcohol or sex or shopping, I mean, there's so many addictions out there. We got them. We all want to not disappoint ourselves and others, but that's our state of being. If you are vibrating in addictions, you are programmed to disappoint yourself and disappoint those around you when you get triggered. Now, all that really means to me at a deep level is that something happened in your past programmable years. You were in an emotional environment where you yourself were disappointed in your parents around you, not doing the best they could, and that it was locked in your nervous system. And ever since then, no matter what age of occurrence it happened, whether it was 0 or age 5, maybe at age 12, mom abandons the family and you've been in a vibration of disappointment ever since. Your nervous system is looking for every opportunity to help you heal that negative association. And every time you give into that addiction and you disappoint yourself or disappoint those around you, it really is, I'm going to say it's an opportunity from a higher power to up level and be your best self. So if you don't consciously choose addictions, would you consciously choose to be angry? No, because that's uncomfortable too, right? But maybe you would consciously choose to be more accepting up at 350. You can set your intention high, you guys. And in fact, I encourage you to go naturally with whatever feels right to you. Let your spirit guide you. But if you're coming to me to raise consciousness of addictions, I'm going to walk you through level at a time. So to raise consciousness of addictions, we're going to move through anger. Then we're going to talk about things that you're proud of. We're going to talk about things where it takes courage to ask for your heart's desires, and so on and so forth. To be mindful of time, I'm going to move through the next slide and encourage you guys to experience using your ZYTO's vector tab for the 12 main traditional Chinese meridians. I call these emotional highways. So imagine at 5 o'clock traffic, all of the cars getting on the highway at once are lots of emotions coming on that highway at once. It means you're triggered and you're feeling all these emotions all at once. And it makes your chi get very stagnant and slow. So if things are slow to change for you and your client, I want to encourage you to start looking at the emotions associated with those meridians. And I really geeked out becoming a Lifeline practitioner on Dr. Darren Weissman's. He put into these beautiful charts for us, like there's 77 emotions that live along the lung and large intestines metal meridian. There's 77 separate emotions that are associated with the fire, sex organs, thyroid, adrenals, heart, and small intestines. Earth, all of these 5 element theories have a variety of emotions, and you can start muscle testing using your ZYTO, and it'll also give you information what organs need support due to stagnant emotions. Okay, take advantage of those things. Muscle testing if you don't have the ZYTO. All right. Lastly, as we come to a close, I want to encourage you to increase your EQ. That's your emotional quotient, right? Instead of saying, I only can tolerate Mrs. Joy coming over for a few minutes, and I can only tolerate grief for like 5 minutes, and then grief has to get out of the house. I want to encourage you to start letting all emotions in, because that is our highest Christ-like self. That Buddha, that Gandhi, that Mother Teresa, that avatar self can tolerate all emotions. And when you do that, you can bounce back quickly at a cellular level. And test it out. Don't take my word for it. Test it for yourself. If you have pain and inflammation in the body, start allowing those emotions in and out, and your vibration will shift. So Jeff, let's do a little Q&A if we have time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've gotten a lot of questions in, so I'm going to kind of fire off. I think we have time for just a couple. So one was, how do you recommend working on our thoughts, like up-leveling our thoughts? What's your primary, tactic to be able to up-level?
Okay, well, first, I would encourage you, because we have thoughts that are repeating every day, I would encourage you to get pen and paper out, right? Because pen and paper is another way to access the subconscious brain. and start writing down the repetitive thoughts that you're having. And then ask yourself, step back and ask yourself, do I consciously choose to feel this way? Do I consciously choose to keep believing this thought? If you don't consciously choose it, you know it's happening for subconscious reasons. And then I would set an intention. So repeating that intention, even though you're triggered and reactive, it's through repeating the intention that things really will shift. Just test that out.
Perfect. Yeah. This webinar is amazing. I am like sitting here going, I feel so much better. I can hit traffic every morning now and not have any problems. I can handle life a little bit easier, huh?
Don't be surprised if it's in your attractor field to hit traffic on the way home,
on the way home,
tomorrow, and the next day, because then
exactly.
You can consciously choose to be at peace, right?
You know what? You've equipped me well now. Whose work were you quoting when you had the lists of emotions with the TCM meridians?
Okay, that is Dr. Darren Weissman. He is the creator of the Lifeline technique. And okay, you can check out his work, and it's loaded in the ZYTO. If someone scans for that service, most likely it tells me that they need change at a subconscious level, and the work of this emotional stuff as well as healing the body physically. Yeah, I'm really drawn to Darren's work because it's similar to mine. Love him.
Yeah. Well, it fits in really well. We do have a couple more. We're going to actually direct those to you after the webinar is over, and we'll just communicate those out to the appropriate recipients. But hopefully, thank you so much. This webinar was amazing, and I just know that a lot of work went into it. Nikki, we appreciate your time. The content of today's webinar was just amazing. It's life-changing for me. We had a chance a couple days ago to run through this with Nikki, and I've already made some, as you can see in today's webinar, there's room for improvement in all of us, but really it's understanding the role and the power that emotions can have in our lives. Not only, they're recognizing that they can disable our overall wellness, but more importantly, how we can utilize them to leverage them to, achieve wellness and become more successful in our lives. And I am so grateful for that. It's really important. Emotions are such a critical component of an individual's wellness. And I think historically, it has been not given the time and attention when really looking at how to help an individual see opportunity for improvements. ZYTO has taken the stance of emotions being one of the three core components of an individual's wellness. And as Nikki presented on, obviously we have a whole entire system, EVOX, that deals entirely with the emotional component of wellness. It deals with a lot of the transgenerational stuff that we're born into, that we deal with and we struggle with. I would encourage you to learn more about EVOX. It's an incredible program. And actually right now, as you see on your screen, there's our complete suite of products, starting with the Compass as Nikki did at one point. And she's obviously progressed to the point where she owns, as she mentioned, several of our licenses, Elite and EVOX being our flagship products. But EVOX is just one of those products that is very complementary to all of the other systems as well. So if you find yourself currently owning a balance system, emotions, there's a small unique part of the balance system that allows you to see the emotion, a small emotional component of it. Adding EVOX to that is a huge value, and same with Select and Elite as well. If you have any questions or you want to learn more, I'd encourage you see the phone number there on the screen to reach out to one of our representatives, and you can learn more about EVOX and the power that it is. Additionally, I believe the next slide is our next webinar. We've had to make a slight adjustment. We understand this is the holiday season. We have the New Year's already upon us. I can't believe 2019 is around the corner. We have made a slight adjustment. Normally, this monthly webinar is hosted on the first Wednesday of every month. In January, we opted to move that to the second week because we know people are going to be coming back from holidays and traveling and things. So we've actually moved that to January the 9th at the same time, 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. We have Amara Prince, who is a life coach and EVOX practitioner, who will be joining us. I believe she's out of Canada, actually, so it's going to be exciting to have her with us. She's going to be speaking on improving wellness through filling focused goals. The new year always brings an opportunity to look forward. Setting new goals and hopes and dreams is important. She's going to help us do that more effectively, starting the new year off right. I want to personally thank Dr. Nikki Reed Wilson. Thank you for your time. And if you didn't have a chance to attend with us live, we'd encourage you next time to be here with us. We always have some fun interactions, and hopefully it's been a good use of your time and you are able to learn some fun things. So appreciate it, and we will see you in 2019. Thanks, everyone.